The balance has tipped after the events at Zandvoort. Norris has 9 races left to be perfect or lose his world champion dream. Welcome then to the 16th round of the Formula 1 World Championship, the Italian Grand Prix. A reliability failure has left Lando Norris struggling, with his gap increasing from 9 to 34 points. For McLaren, one driver is nearing the title while the other is in check. The only way out is to win. The next battle will be at Formula 1's most legendary temple. The second race in Italy will take place at the Temple of Speed, the fastest track on the calendar, located in Monza, Italy, home of Scuderia Ferrari, which will witness a new battle that is getting closer and closer to its conclusion. A story now features a driver racing desperately on the ultra-fast circuit where any mistake is harshly punished. 9 races decide the World Championship. But to do it, both of them will have to keep a cool head and go out there to do whatever it takes to win. Let's kick off the preview of the 2025 Formula 1 Italian Grand Prix like this. The situation has changed drastically from one moment to the next after the events of the Dutch Grand Prix. The title fight has one driver on the ropes, and though it's not impossible for him to recover, he'll face many challenges rejoining the battle. 9 races separate the 2025 champion, but before that, you have to get through the circuit. It has been on the Formula 1 world calendar more times, and the Grand Prix has always been on the top categories calendars. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Italian Grand Prix, the home of the Ferrari team and this new round of the Formula 1 World Championship. So to start off this preview, let's begin by analyzing the Italian circuit, getting to know its key facts and sectors. Its track, the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza, is a permanent circuit in this region established in 1922 and part of Formula 1 since the inaugural 1950 season. 5.7 kilometers of track, 53 laps, 11 corners, 2 drag reduction system zones and 2 overtaking areas. Characterized by being a track full of heavy braking, difficult and extremely fast. The speed starts from the first sector, right on the long main straight, which is the point where the highest speeds on this track are reached. Once you cross the finish line, you go flat out until turn 1. And this straight has the particular feature of being the first drag reduction system activation zone that this circuit gives you. After crossing the finish line, drivers activate this device, which extends along the straight until turn 1. Its size and the heavy braking at the Variante del Retifilo make it perfect for overtaking if the attacking car has enough of a speed difference. Turn 1 is the hardest braking zone for the brakes on this track. Locking up on entry is easy, but drivers must find traction exiting the corner. Exit quickly toward the Curva Grande, the next section of the track. The last section of this sector, which is a high-speed right-hander, very quickly closes out the first part of this circuit. The second one doesn't drop the pace or the intensity either, but we find some of the most interesting challenges this track has to offer. It starts with the complex chicane of the Variante della Roggia, a tight and extremely slow turn, where once again, it's necessary to have good traction on the exit and avoid going too wide so you don't touch the dirt. Next, they tackle Lesmo 1 and 2's fast corners, but one of the most important features of this sector is that the straight leading to the Ascari chicane is a drag reduction system activation zone. After exiting the Lesmo 2 corner just a few meters ahead, this device is activated. It's a narrow area, so overtaking is hard unless there's obvious tire wear. You get much better traction out of this, but it's important to exit with good speed to face the final part of the Italian circuit. This area is mainly used to get closer to rivals, not for maneuvers. It's not impossible, but what's important is it leads us to the final section of the Monza National Autodrome circuit. In the last sector, the low-speed corners end and the drivers face the 2 fastest corners on this circuit. The first is the Ascari chicane, a high-speed corner, left, right and left, where you must ride the curbs carefully and counter-steer skillfully to keep the car on the ideal racing line and save as much time as possible. It's one of the most crucial points for setting lap times on this circuit. Next, the drivers enter the back straight before the parabolic curve, a right-hand turn with an increasing radius, where the entry speed is high and progressively increases as the drivers go through it. It's a turn where a good entry but a fast exit allow the cars to reach a higher speed. the main straight of this circuit, and with it, finishing the lap at the Temple of Speed at a very high pace. The nickname the Temple of Speed is not just anything, and this circuit isn't called that lightly. Its long straights, extreme speeds, and hard braking make this track as legendary as its nickname. 300 km per hour are child's play on this circuit, and the high-speed duels border on true spectacle. And in short, in the first sector, the most important elements are speed and brakes. In the second, traction coming out of the four corners, and in the last, once again, speed and strength through high-speed corners. Consider other relevant data for this circuit. Since its 1994 debut, the safety car has appeared only 10 times. This circuit has existed for over 30 years and has hosted Formula 1 since 1994. So even with the high speeds, the safety car rarely appears on this track. But when there's an accident or a car gets stuck, its presence is often needed and typically doesn't require the virtual safety car. Thus, there's up to a 50% chance of a safety car at Monza during a race. One spot stands out for danger: Turn 1. This usually happens at the start due to the long straight, the narrow area, and everyone trying to gain positions, making it the most likely spot for accidents. And during battles, because of its tight turning radius, if both drivers, the attacker and the defender, don't leave enough space, contact ends up being almost inevitable. On this circuit, traction and brakes take a beating. This is because of the constant slow corners, preceded by long straights that usually make it a punishment. These two elements stand out due to these significant straights. Cars typically use low downforce setups, and wings are set very low on this circuit. And for battles, Monza has two key points that are the most likely for overtaking maneuvers. The first is on the main straight, along with braking into Turn 1. Because of the drag reduction system and the straight, it's the best and most likely overtaking point on this circuit. To do it, you need to get a much better exit out of the parabolica, slipstream all the way down the straight, and try to complete the move before reaching Turn 1. Alternatively, one can try the inside line, though it's much harder since drivers on the outside are easily pushed off track and often can't complete the move. Right after, the big curve to the Arrows chicane offers the second best overtaking spot. If the driver can't overtake or must regain position after an attack in Turn 1, if the rival drafts through the curve and brakes aggressively at the turn's entrance, can you overtake here? It's harder than in turn number 1, but given the conditions, it's usually a better opportunity. Even more so than the second drag reduction system zone. However, because the cars run with very low downforce, drag reduction system tends to be less effective on this track, and overtaking is usually more difficult if the driver ahead has a higher top speed. Even with a poor corner exit, overtaking is still difficult at 3.5. Getting stuck in drag reduction system trains or behind a car with higher top speed is very easy on this particular circuit. And tire wear at Monza is at a medium-low level. The asphalt isn't abrasive and you don't struggle with lateral loads, although the stress the tires are put under tends to be a bit higher. Race strategies typically include 1 or 2 pit stops, based on the team's chosen approach. But both can work under the right conditions. And for this edition, Pirelli will bring the C3, C4 and C5 compounds, which represent the soft range from the Italian manufacturer. The Temple of Speed lives up to its name, a nickname it has kept year after year, as it is the track with the highest average speed on the entire calendar. The track's extreme speed creates a classic Italian challenge that tests the car's true power. And because of that speed, when they arrive at Monza, the drivers face a challenge. Dangerous, precise, but above all, spectacular. Sandboard has turned Lando Norris's chances for the World Drivers' title upside down, especially with the pace of his teammate. It was a tough battle, now almost impossible. Making up the points difference that exists now won't be easy, and the chase needs to start perfectly. At the Temple of Speed, Ferrari's home, where McLaren wants another victory on the land of its greatest historical rival. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the team-by-team and driver-by-driver rundown for this new round, the Italian Grand Prix at the Monza circuit in Italy. McLaren stays unbeatable after a strong win at Max Verstappen's home track. They maintain their dominance as they approach their 10th Constructors' Championship in just a few more races, where if they keep up their current pace, they could have their first match point at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Things are now divided in the drivers' standings after Norris's car failure and Oscar Piastri's win, creating a 34-point gap between them. Initially, the failure was thought to be due to the Mercedes power unit, but McLaren clarified it was a chassis issue. and that they will thoroughly check it before the next race in Monza. This minimizes the risk of having to change power unit components and receiving a grid penalty because of it. Despite the situation and the fact that there are 9 races left in the championship, Norris knows that it will be very difficult to turn things around and catch up with his teammate again. Especially since in 2025 he has shown more speed, consistency and car understanding than him. And what if things don't change for him in these areas and luck leans a little in his favor, on his side? Will it be hard to catch up the 34 points the Australian is ahead by? Although, I repeat, it's not impossible, things have become much more complicated for him now. As usual, they're the favorites for this Grand Prix. With their strength, even on tracks that don't suit them, the car's advantages have been nearly unbeatable. So we'll see if they manage another easy victory at the home of their historic rival, and above all, if Norris manages to recover from what happened at the Zandvoort circuit. Ferrari isn't entering their home Grand Prix on a high note after the disastrous Dutch Grand Prix, where both cars retired. One was due to an accident with Hamilton, the other from a Leclerc collision caused by Antonelli. Therefore, the gap in the constructors' standings with Mercedes has narrowed a bit, and for this race, in fact, the consequences from Zandvoort will carry over because Hamilton will have to serve a 5-place grid penalty for being penalized after not respecting the minimum speed in a double yellow flag zone before the start of the race. On a positive note, Ferrari seemed to have a pretty outstanding race pace, but since they got stuck behind Isaac Heyer, they couldn't take advantage of it. For Monza, the goal is to reach the podium and improve qualifying to showcase their pace. And they need to at least achieve the goal of the podium because if they don't, the Tifosi will be relentless. After a year of high expectations, they ended up as one of 2025's biggest disappointments. Even though the conditions at Zandvoort looked good for their car, it feels like a missed opportunity for the Germans, who also didn't show a better pace than Ferrari on that circuit. They were a bit luckier, surviving with Russell's car after the Italian team's double retirement. The Monza track, with low downforce, will be a challenge that could be good for Mercedes, as they usually perform well on circuits with these characteristics. And the heat that's expected isn't so high that we should think they'll struggle on the Italian track. They may be fighting to get in, but Andrea Kimi Antonelli, racing at home this weekend, urgently needs a great result. And he's coming off a long streak of poor results which has minimized his explosive start to the season, where pressure, unfamiliarity with the car, and other factors have left the young Italian under stress, resulting in modest results. Antonelli should use his home Grand Prix to achieve a strong result and regain confidence. Although his 2026 future seems secure, there's no guarantee the same problems won't arise next season if things continue as they are. And with that, Mercedes might not hesitate to look for another driver in the short term. Red Bull's second place with Verstappen in Sandburg is a welcome change after a difficult weekend in Hungary. But their pace, even though they strategically went for something different from the rest of their rivals in that race, I wouldn't say it was the most outstanding. If not for Isaac Hadjar shielding us from Leclerc's attacks. With any other driver, we probably would have seen a much more combative Red Bull, since in terms of pace, they seem to be completely matched with their junior team. Either way, they left Sandburg, a tough track for the RB21. A positive outcome, knowing victory was unattainable for them or any other team under normal conditions. For this Grand Prix, it's still unclear where the RB21 stands because of its narrow optimal setup window. Monza's traits don't completely favor the RB21 either, still a good weekend. It will depend on finding the right setup very early in the first practice session. We'll see if the situation repeats and lets them fight for the podium, since victory still seems very difficult now. Williams made an incredible save in Sandburg, where they experienced both sides of fortune, the good with Albon and the bad with Carlos Sainz, but whose result allows them to maintain, for now, the 5th place in the constructors' standings, practically with the same gap as before, with Racing Bulls and Aston Martin as their direct rivals. For Monza, they should find the track much better suited to their car than Sandburg was, and allow them to fight again on this circuit. They must maximize their chances to pull ahead in the constructors' standings and maintain a safe lead. Let's see if they can score points with both cars this time. And at least Carlos Sainz will have better luck than he did at the Dutch Grand Prix. Aston Martin. Although they scored double points in Sandburg, it seems they missed a big opportunity on a track that suited them. And in the 8th and 9th place, does it feel extremely underwhelming? And now they're facing something that's completely different for them in terms of performance. Remember, low downforce circuits are their Achilles heel. so it's highly likely that they'll struggle this weekend on the long straights of Monza. In this race, they'll need a damage limitation approach to keep Williams from gaining too much in the constructors' standings. Racing Bulls achieved their best season result at Zandvoort due to Isaac Hayar's impressive pace. His impressive qualifying lap allowed him to capitalize on the situation and earn his first Formula One podium. The Racing Bulls executed a strong race and would have secured double points if not for Lawson's contact with Sainz. Crucial for their goal to become the season's 6th team, and it proves their car's early season balance is back. And for Monza, they look strong, and the goal is to get another double points finish that brings them closer to that 5th place in the constructors' standings. Although expectations were high, Sauber's C45 underperformed at Sandburg. They left without scoring, falling further behind in the race for 5th place. In 2025, Sauber aims to rebound in Italy as all their main rivals have scored points except them. So we'll see if they return to the spectacular pace they had shown up until Hungary and get back on track in this fight. In particular, Haas's double points finish narrows the gap to rivals, but they're still not close to competing for 5th in the Constructors' Championship. The Americans hope for a great Grand Prix, but Monza's long straights make points seem hard to earn. But we'll see if they can take advantage of the circumstances dictated by their rivals again and fight for something once more. More than 9th place in the Constructors' standings at the end of the season. Thanks to a series of strategy and communication errors, Alpine left without scoring a single point from one of the circuits that benefited them the most on the calendar. And now they're heading to the complete opposite. 2 circuits that will be a real headache. And once again, this will expose the biggest problem the French team has, which is the speed coming from the power unit. Franco Colapinto appeared much improved at Zandvoort, and definitely returning to circuits he already knows from the calendar. It will be very good for his personal confidence and the adaptation he needs to have with the car. But the next 2 races are going to be the toughest challenges they have to face at the end of this season. Therefore, earning points seems very hard. In the foreground, at 2 low downforce circuits such as Monza and Baku. As for the weather, this weekend no weather surprises are expected from the skies over Lombardy. Friday has the highest chance of rain, up to 50% in the morning, while Saturday and Sunday only have a 5% chance. Moderately high temperatures are expected between 25 and 27 degrees. But other than that, there's no threat of rain at all, at least on Saturday and Sunday. So ladies and gentlemen, get ready for a completely dry track to face this new round of the Formula One World Championship. And finally, to wrap up this preview, it's time for the historical facts section of the Italian Grand Prix, its circuit, and the historical records held at this track. Monza is the longest standing circuit in Formula One history, having only missed the Formula One calendar in 1 edition. Since 1950, this track hosted the Italian Grand Prix, except in 1980 when Imola took over, and the possibility of being the only circuit in history to be present in every Formula One season. Since then, it's been called the Temple of Speed due to its long straights and very high average speeds. Even in the 1950s, the big oval was banked and used for absurdly high speeds. And obviously, to emphasize, Italy is one of those Grand Prix races that have always been on the Formula One world calendar, being one of the few that still have that historic status of permanence. Since 1950, Italy has had a long list of drivers who have participated in Formula One, but interestingly, only 2 have achieved the milestone of becoming world champions. First is Giuseppe Nino Farina, Formula One Sae's inaugural world champion in 1950, and the other is Alberto Ascari, who won with Ferrari in 1952 and 1953. And since then, although there have been Italian drivers who have won Grand Prix races, they haven't had another world champion from this country. Only Alberto Ascari, 1951, 1952, and Giuseppe Farina, 1950, have won this competition as chaser drivers. And the last one to achieve it was Ludovico Scarfiotti, winning in 1966 driving for the Ferrari team. Rubens Barrichello holds the circuit's fastest lap, setting a 1-21.046 record in his Ferrari in 2004. Ferrari is the most successful team in this circuit's history, with 20 victories from 1951 to 2004. Top Grand Prix winners are Nelson Piquet with 4 victories and 2 others tied with 5 each. On the top step, we have Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton, who stand as the greatest kings of this Grand Prix. And we just have to see if Lewis Hamilton can break that record in what remains of his Formula One career. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the preview of the 2025 Italian Grand Prix in Formula 1. But this is what I ask you. Do you think Lando Norris can make up the difference and get back into the fight? Do you think Piastri already has the title nearly secured? Let me know your top 3. Who do you predict will be on the podium after this Sunday's Italian Grand Prix? Let me know all your opinions in the comments section. With nothing more to add, I say goodbye by telling you that if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe, enable notifications to catch my new videos, and share with your friends. Also, I invite you to follow us on our Instagram and Twitter accounts. The links will be in the description of this video, and I'll see you this Sunday, for the recap at the end of the Italian Grand Prix. Thank you for tuning in. See you later.